In today's episode of ChildrenPlus Connects, we connect with Mrs. Papia Sinha. Mrs. Papia Sinha is a practicing psychologist with more than 25 years of experience. Welcome, ma'am, to our platform.
Hi, Michelle.
Ma'am, let me start with the first question. In our previous episodes, quite a few of our esteemed guests have raised this point that when a family member is diagnosed or is suspected of having a mental health challenge, the other family members are not very receptive of this. They do not accept it well enough. So please help us in this quest.
Okay. There are a couple of issues involved here. First of all, family members are little apprehensive. They have a fear because it's an area unknown or not very nicely defined. So they are scared of venturing into that area. One. Two, we are still living in a society which have a lot of questions or taboo related to mental health. Thirdly, many of the family members, even in the educated families, people do not consider many of the challenges, mental health challenges, as something to be really taken seriously. They do not consider these as disorder or health issue. So they say, no, just do this, do that, meet your friends, sit with us, things will be all right. Whether the person or the child or the adult, whosoever is suffering, tries to convey. And they stop or they feel even more demotivated because the family members do not agree or understand. It's a common phenomena in the entire society. One, that we need to create more of awareness not just to tell that okay, these are the issues our people are going through or youngsters are facing, but also clarifying that there is nothing to be scared of. Like if a child has a headache or some stomach issues, parents do not really worry, they take the child to the GP. Exactly same level of clarity we need to give them to the parents, create the general awareness. Once that is done, slowly, it will not happen in just say a month's time or 2 months' time, but gradually it will start working. And now we have a tool, social media, very positively, very constructively, we can create that awareness. Some people are definitely working in this area, but more and more people are needed. And we must not forget that family members, they also have their own baggage of say learning and experiences. So they cannot, if they have not heard these problems in their own family, so they would not be very willing to relate it to whatever is happening to the youngster or anybody in the family. So they would say, oh, it happens somewhere else, but it is not so close to us. It is not so close to me. Like earlier, there were some physical disorders or illness which we used to think, oh, it happens somewhere. But now things have changed. We know that almost every single family or every other family are suffering from those illnesses.
Right.
So we have to make it more easily understandable, removing that fear aspect. The moment the fear goes away, the taboo will also disappear, and then this bottleneck will start melting.
What do you have to say that people say that mental health issue is more an urban issue and not a rural issue? Is it true?
No, it is not true. There are a lot of people say things or form opinion on the basis of selective or partial information. People who are saying that it's an urban issue, have they really visited rural areas? Have they had interaction with people who are not living in our big cities? Probably not. So it is not at all, it has got nothing to do with whether it is rural or urban area or setup. Yes, in big cities, we have more of its life is more complex. The dual nature of interaction here is much more than uh, we find it in the smaller cities or in the villages. Dual in the sense, someone meeting you, being very polite and nice to you on your face. And the moment you are gone, it's completely different kind of face or interaction or opinion the same person will have about you. These kind of challenges, it leads to insecurity and uncertainty in any interaction and relationships. These are the basis of many more complex problems. You may find this much lesser in villages, rural areas, or smaller towns, cities. These are only quantitative difference, there are no qualitative difference. So it is not an urban issue at all.
And if I'm not mistaken, can I also add that this is the urban, there's more awareness in the urban area than the rural area. There's little, maybe a slightly more acceptance in the urban areas, wherein the people go out and seek support actively than the rural area.
Yes, that is true. That is true. But what I find really difficult to accept that the level or the spread of education and awareness that we have in urban setup, it doesn't really match with the number of people going out asking for the help. So if you go by the education system or information spread, much more number of people should be going and asking for the help for mental health.
Right.
That is not happening. So there is a mismatch there, but definitely uh, the population here in cities or urban areas, they are much more aware than the rural setup.
Going specifically to children's mental health, and the data available from the Western countries is much more than what is available from India. So, in our study, it says that 1 in 10 or 1 in 7 children in America, they have ADHD. 1 in 9 children are suffering with dyslexia. 1 in 9 children suffer with dyscalculia. 1 in 8 children suffer with dysgraphia. Figures, I may be wrong in exact figures, but it is somewhere in this region. So in India also, they say that it would be in the similar region. It cannot be much different. So what is your take? Because you've been practicing for last 25 years, you must have seen so many cases. What's your take on this, ma'am?
See what happens in India, the recording or the reporting system is not as good as we find in other countries. One. Secondly, when children are really small, we still go by the opinion that let the child grow, this problem may disappear on its own. Let the family members uh, get involved with the child even more, things will change. In some cases, it definitely works, but not in all the cases where the problem is a much higher, the intensity is a much more, then this kind of opinion, this kind of stance will not work. In some cases it does, but in our society we go by that. Even in schools, children, lot of children may exhibit some of the symptoms, but they are not taken very seriously because they think, oh, children behave in this fashion, it's no problem, it's not a disorder, it is not a symptom, it is not indicating, it's not an indicator to some kind of disorder. So they are ignored. There we go wrong. Even if it is not an indicator, there is no harm in assessing this child, assessing this case, making assessments, wherein in other countries they have a proper what you call assessment technique. They begin into practice the moment they identify even remotely something closer to what they put in the category of ill health or mental disbalance or uh,
A
asking for
learning disability.
yeah, asking for some kind of intervention. Even if they have a little bit of indication, they will begin the entire assessment process. We don't do that. Rarely we do it, and our reporting and recording system is not as good as others. So that is why the numbers are much lesser.
Right. The reported number is much less, but
Reported numbers, yes,
right.
yes, yes.
Ma'am, but how do you deal with the situation where parents are living in denial? They do not want to accept that there's something wrong with their child.
Okay. See, as an individual, I consider personally that all adults have to play the role of being elder little well, little better, because we have already waved this weather, because we have come much before than our youngsters. That's one. So, how do we do that? As a practitioner, I try to generate awareness, not just to my clients, to my patient, I try to involve the family. Because even if the patient or the client comes, takes the therapy, takes the sessions, it is not going to be really effective if his or her surrounding or the family is not contributing positively to the treatment process.
Is not supportive of.
Exactly. So there are cases where the family doesn't have to be actively support the entire process, but they cannot create obstructions. So for that purpose, we have to try and educate the family members, and there are it's very difficult, it's not that easy, because they think many a times, not all of them, but many a times they think that no, what they think, the way they are leading their life is perfectly fine. So we have to be patient, we have to understand, we cannot blame the family, parents or siblings, anyone, but we have to understand where they are coming from. Once we understand, as practitioner, we can help them understand the problem of their thinking, that is one, and of problem of their family members, whosoever is suffering from any health issue, mental health issue. Secondly, as working people in this area, we can use many of the other tools. One, as I said, social media. Another, that community service. We can have many gatherings, formal, informal, where we can just spend little time discussing about these things without being judgmental. What happens most of the time, parents take a back seat because they think, oh, we are to be blamed for this. That is not the agenda. If we remove the judgments aside, keep the judgments aside, and talk about how and why, whatever is happening, how it is happening, why it is happening, and how it can be changed slowly. But this is this is what we have to do. No other way out.
So this brings me to the last question. Is this a recent phenomena? Because during our time when we were growing up, it wasn't that prevalent. Was it not that prevalent, or wasn't we were aware that other people are going through these challenges?
It was not so prevalent. They were there. It was there, but not in this manner. COVID, 3 to 4 years of isolation have really created havoc. Children who used to go to school, they were away from home, so they did not know anything good or bad that was happening inside the house. When they remained home, they were witnessing every aspect of whatever was happening in the family. They were cut off from the world, so they got into the digital world. Now, the digital world does not actually give only good or the nice. So, what is happening? Plus, it is not just the children, parents are also, to a great extent, devoting time onto their uh, mobile or laptop. It's basically the digital world. So, where is the interaction? When you were growing up or I was growing up, it was not the case. We had a lot of discussions, dinner time, or in the morning, going out together. Now, that togetherness, that communication, that sharing doesn't really happen.
Right.
So, the part of the life is not real because that is only on the media. You communicate with each other, you wish each other, even in the family, but on the media. So, it is all filtered, not the truth. Child picks it up because the child has already seen it somewhere in the family. So we cannot, pick up one person or two as who is the culprit. It's all in there. So we have to take care of one, that who is facing the problem, and the contributing agents. So definitely there is geometrical progression in this matter.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, ma'am. And we'll definitely be calling you back. And thank you, our viewers. Thank you, our listeners, for being with us.